I tell everybody, this is not normal. I've never seen a department eat their young in the way that LAPD does, ever.
Have that feeling when you know your department is after you worse than a gangster on the street. It sucks. Sucks for cops.
Even though I believed in God, I wasn't submitting to God. Here I am, just white-knuckling life, just trying to do it all on my own.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to yet another episode of Purpose Over Pleasure podcast. Let me fix my mic. And today we have a pleasure of having an interesting guest with us. A gangster at law. Just kidding. An attorney at law, right, Nicole?
An attorney
Or
at
you
law.
got fancy, letters.
ESQ.
Yeah, all of that fancy stuff. But welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for beating the traffic. Very excited to have you on. I know you got a lot to say. I've listened to one of your previous episodes. So I got questions, and I know you've done a lot of good work for my fellow first responders or law enforcement officers. So, you come very highly recommended.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully I don't have to use your services in my life. But if I do, I will save your number for sure. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's tell the public first, what is it that you do? We'll get that out of the way because sometimes they're like, well, what's the secret? What does the person do? What kind of services they promote? So
What don't I do?
Awkwardly promote yourself.
Okay,
right
I
now.
can do that. So I have my own law firm, Law Offices of Nicole Castronovo. That is like my pride and joy baby, besides my own babies. It was a dream of mine to open my own business, and we started about a year ago. I primarily represent police officers in administrative cases. So that could be anything from an internal affairs interview, Skelly, Board of Rights for LAPD people. Most other agencies do arbitration, civil service, all those things. I also do writs and appeals to Superior Court if police officers need to take an appeal on a decision from an administrative case. And I also represent police officers in criminal cases. I have a long background in criminal defense. I've been doing criminal defense for the entirety of the 9 years that I've been an attorney. And before that, before I went to law school, I worked as a paralegal doing criminal defense as well. That was mostly civilian, so I have seen both sides of the coin. Currently, I do take civilian clients as well, but usually they come word of mouth, family members that are LEO family members. I also do civil harassment orders for people, domestic violence restraining orders. I've both prosecuted and defended those. And I do partner with a good friend of mine, Georgia Lupus. We partner on employment law cases sometimes. So, for example, we have a number of cases involving police officers who were racially discriminated against at their departments or discriminated against based on their sexual orientation. And he has a robust background in the employment area. And my background with police, it's a good combination with our two heads are better than one.
Yeah.
And so I do that as well.
Okay. Wow. Well, next time I'm asked somebody what they do, I'm probably going to tell them in the beginning, hey, summarize it into a smaller sentence. But that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And over the years, I've also helped clients with their media when they have a high-profile case as well.
Okay. All right. Well, the question is, why cops? Like, out of all, and I know a lot of attorneys. God has blessed me with a lot of friends who are attorneys. I service a lot of law firms. There's a lot of different routes you could have taken. Why specifically, like, helping us?
That wasn't... I didn't even know what being a police attorney was. I'd never heard of that before. And after I graduated law school, well, let me back up. My family has, I'm really proud of this. Many of my family members have served in the military or been first responders themselves. My father was a Navy medic. He was a corpsman. My uncle was in the Navy. He did 2 tours in Vietnam. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. He liberated Jews from concentration camps in Nazi Germany. And my grandmother's brother also served in World War II and was killed. He was they were a Gold Star family. And my grandfather, who served in World War II, when he came back, he worked as a reserve police officer at El Monte PD, actually, for a while. I have a cousin who is a deputy fire chief, now retired. And so I understood what that means to serve people and grew up having a tremendous respect for that, for the bravery. And when I was waiting for my bar results, I had just moved to the Bay Area after law school, and I was trying to find a job, because you wait for your bar results, it takes forever, and you're pretty much useless until you get your bar card. It's not, they don't want you. What are you going to do? You're not a lawyer yet. It's like Britney Spears says, I'm not a girl, not yet a woman. That's kind of what you are with waiting for bar results. So, I had friends that were working in restaurants or folding T-shirts in the meantime. And I had a good friend in the Bay Area who's at the time was a police sergeant. And he was his POA president. And when I told him I was looking for jobs, he said, I worked with this firm recently on our collective bargaining. And he just knew my personality. And he said, I think you'd really click with the person that helped us in negotiations. And I think you'd click in this. And actually, he Googled it, and they were hiring. And so because I had to earn my own money to go to law school, I had been a legal assistant paralegal for about 8 years before I went to law school in total.
Where did you work for that period? And what kind of cases?
The first job I had as a legal assistant, I started 20 years old while I was in undergrad, was doing civil defense, and I did not like that. And the reason I did it was because I always knew I wanted to go to law school, but there were no lawyers in my family. I didn't know very much about it. And so I figured, why don't I take a job doing this, to see if it's even a business I want to be in. I really didn't like doing civil defense because you're working for corporations, and I didn't feel anything about it. And after a couple of years, I was like, I don't like this. Maybe I don't want to go to law school, but I'll try one more, area of the law and see if I like that. So I went to work for a criminal defense attorney, actually in Pasadena. I just talked about that. And I loved it. And I did that for 6 years before I went to law school. So when my friend Googled this job, they were hiring for a legal assistant. And I was like, this is perfect because I don't have my bar card. And I fell in love with it. It was a police firm. It's a statewide firm. And that's where I got my taste of, working on these admin cases, working on still doing criminal defense with officers. And then it was good being there because it was a good sized firm. I also saw how the media worked as it pertains to high profile police cases. And for a while, I also would do civil lawsuits on behalf of police officers. So one of the cases I'll never forget was I had a police client that was on his motorcycle responding to a call, and he was hit by a drunk driver.
Ooh.
Yes. And he was nearly killed, was in a coma, and had to learn how to walk, talk, do life again. And he's actually just such a cool, inspiring person. He got back on his bike, his full duty again. But I worked on that civil lawsuit. I also would do restitution for police officers who were hurt by criminals. And so I just had a wide range of things that I got to learn how to do. And I just really liked the clientele. I don't know how I would do in a corporate environment. I've never worked in a corporate environment. And I grew up with very real people, My dad's from the Bronx. My late dad was from the Bronx. He didn't grow up with very much. The rest of my family, same thing, a lot of blue collar workers. And I really liked dealing with the police, which a lot of people don't like to do. But I feel like I got them. They're real people. They'll shoot you straight. I can talk how I normally talk. They're tough in the sense that if I need to tell the client, hey, you gotta present this way or that way. They're coachable and they're good-hearted people. There's so many misconceptions about the police. But
Okay.
it's also fun too, I would, for years and years, I would roll out to shootings in the middle of the night. I am just getting too old for that now. The sleep
Yeah, because
disruption
because
is
you were
is
representing officers involved in shootings, right? You
yes,
were okay.
yes. So basically, it's just like with homicide detectives, they're
Yeah,
on
yeah,
call.
yeah.
We would be on call, and then if something
Yeah.
happened, I would go out, and that also taught me a different compassion for law enforcement because it's kind of a weird thing for a police officer if they've been in a shooting and all of a sudden, they're taken
Yeah,
back to the station, they're isolated,
mm-hmm.
they're sitting there, they can't talk to anyone, and I'm like the first person that they get to have a meaningful
Mm-hmm.
conversation with. But think about it, like you get in a shooting, and these are the ones that would break my heart. Is like some 20-year-old that's their first shooting.
Yeah.
It has a lot of impact on people. That book On Killing is a great read for people.
That's a good book.
It's a great
Yeah, I think I
read.
might even be here
I think if
somewhere.
you're a police
Yeah.
attorney, it's a must
On
read.
Killing is a good book. Yeah, it's somewhere here. Sorry, I was pushing the book out,
And for
but
those who don't know, it's a book that talks about what
somewhere
that
here.
takes from people
Yeah.
when they do have to
Mm-hmm.
they do have to use their weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's the most righteous thing to save themselves, there's no other choice, or somebody else, it still has an incredible impact on people.
It
And
does.
so walking into a room and seeing some 21-year-old who's totally scared, freaked out, horrified, and now their life is changed. And the skill of that is they don't know me. They don't know if I'm any good or not, and they have to trust me.
That
And
right there.
they have to trust me, and that's on me to earn their trust. But I think I really liked it because it's so interpersonal. It's really relationship based kind of law. I'm not just sitting behind my desk
Yeah.
writing a will or a trust. And I'm a people person, and I like that, and I like helping people. And I do just find them to be a good, solid group of people, and they're funny. They're funny. When I'm sitting in a police station for 10 hours, even though it's been a rough day, as I go get my snack or whatever, people are funny. People are cool. And you know what? Cops, not always like this, but I've found for the most part, they're super loyal. Like they'll have your back. They don't forget if you've helped them. A lot of attorneys talk about sometimes they'll get a client like a great result, and then the client doesn't even say thank you or anything after they put their heart and soul into it. And not that you're required to, you paid us for that or whatever, but police officers are always super grateful, and they don't forget that, and they're loyal, and I really admire that.
I think it comes from the fact that there's not many people out there who will help us. So the ones that do help us, we appreciate. We appreciate that. Like just at least for me, like I know, cops are hated, dude. We're hated because just purely out of the uniform we wear. Doesn't matter. I might be a bad person, might be a good person. Nobody knows me or who I am as a person, as a human being. But purely out of uniform, we're not firefighters. People don't call us, Christmas or hey, hello, come celebrate with us. People call cops when they're in trouble, when they're in deep shit, right? That's when they dial 911. And yeah, we get a lot of hate. And then when we do see love and appreciation, it we welcome it, and it's noticeable. It's more rare to see that than to see cops getting treated, fairly or good. That's why we notice it. So thank you for taking care of. Although I'm retired now, but thank you for taking care of my brothers and sisters.
It's
It goes a
truly
long
my
way.
honor. It's an honor to me. I take great pride in it to have people that I admire trust me with their future, their family's future. I take that very seriously. And what you said, there's not a lot of people who want to do it. That is very real. Before I started my own thing, I worked in police law firms, and when hiring was needed, a lot of people, when they hear what the work is, especially here in Southern California, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work with the police. I don't want to help them. And then the other part of it, the answer to 9 out of 10 questions is money, is it's a very low paying area of the law because, unions aren't paying you $600 an hour to represent a police officer. It is one of the lower paying areas of the law. And so I think to do it, one, you have to not be a hater of police.
Yeah.
Two, I think the best police attorneys that I've seen, a lot of them are former police officers who have become lawyers, and anyone who has had some sort of connection with it. Where I've seen police attorneys that I don't admire so much their work, I notice it doesn't seem like they have any skin in the game. It's just an area that you have to take a little more personally. You have to have some sort of buy-in to it. And I think it's a special thing that I get to do, which is I get to serve people who serve.
I like that. So you now been representing cops for how long?
In May it'll be 9 years.
Okay, 9 years. So in 9 years, I'm sure you had a handful of cases where police officers are being unjustly treated, fired, discriminated against, punished on the job by the departments.
Yes.
So what do you think is the common, or one or two or multiple things when it commonalities when it comes down to all these officers being treated or mistreated, so to say, by their departments? Like, do you see something that's in common across many departments, whether it's a tiny department like Glendora or a big department like LAPD? Is it people? Is it supervision? Is it policies? Is it politics? Is it city? What are the factors in your opinion?
I mean, one thing I usually ask clients when I first meet with them, if I'm noticing it's like the punishment's not really fitting the crime, I always ask them, like, if this was high school, what table are you sitting at? This is especially important at smaller agencies, but it can be at larger agencies as well. Who likes you? Who doesn't like you? Were you really tight with the last captain at your station and the new captain hated that captain, now hates you? Your sort of social capital at a police department matters. Connections. Are you nepotism? Things like that can make a difference in discipline. I've seen people who speak up and are whistleblowers get punished. I don't believe in this thin blue line thing at all. If someone does something wrong,
Yeah.
you need to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to deal with it. No, that doesn't mean being like a narc or a snitch about things that don't matter. But if it's serious misconduct, right? LAP is a shall. You have a duty to keep integrity in a police force.
Yeah, and not when it goes above sergeant level.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now. For some reason, and I've only had like barely a few years in LAPD. Right? I left them in 2000. Well, I had like 4 years or so with them, less than 5. I've noticed like patrol is being watched under the microscope. Like, we're upheld to the highest standard above all. Like, God forbid you do something. God forbid you sneeze in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
But going like lieutenant and above, command staff is like above the law. Above the law, dude.
Quite literally. Look
Yeah,
at some of the
literally.
things that LAPD command staff's been doing in recent years.
I haven't
It's
seen what
crazy.
they've been doing in recent years. Kind of like, I left that department a long time ago. But when I was there, I don't know if you heard about that one big case when there was like gang bangings going on and stuff like that. Where one commander got pulled over driving drunk. She crashed in Glendale, and then she became whistleblower. And she's like, oh, and command staff didn't have her back. So you remember about that case?
I think so.
Yeah,
That
and they
vaguely
didn't have
sounds
her
familiar.
back. And yeah, she and a sergeant, right? It was a commander and a sergeant. They got either crashed or pulled over in Glendale. It was a big mess, and supposedly she didn't have her. They didn't have her back, like LAPD command staff. So she's like, she became a whistleblower. It's like, okay, well, there's this house in LA or Beverly Hills where they meet and they do this, orgies, whatever.
Freak offs.
Freak offs, and then like this captain's with that captain's wife and this commander's, and the reason why I do believe it's true because we had so many photos circling throughout the whole department. And that's when Chief Moore became chief. Like, Beck left, Moore became chief. And that's when Eric Garcetti at the time was, I think, getting reelected. And so we were like, whoa, Chief Moore is chief now. Like, this is a big deal. Everybody's got all kinds of photos. We're seeing this commander, naked, that commander naked. There's scandals. Someone's going to,
Heads are going to roll.
go down for it. Heads going to roll. Nothing. As if somebody picked up the big rug. All that got swept in, and they put it down. And then Chief Moore is the chief, Eric Garcetti is the mayor, and business as usual. But God forbid a patrol cop forgets to book $5, legitimately forgets to book $5 or puts 15-minute difference on the overtime greenie, right? Oh my God, that's it. You are the worst police officer ever. We're going to crack the whip on you. You're going to get prosecuted. This and that. I was like, that's kind of not fair. So, have that feeling when you know your department is after you worse than a gangster on the street. It sucks. Sucks for cops.
It's not how it should be. And, I've worked with agencies throughout the state of California. I've worked with everybody from Oakland Police Department to LA County Sheriff, San Bernardino County Sheriff, Anaheim PD, so many agencies. And LAPD was my most recent, newer department to learn about. And I was shocked. Still, every day I'm shocked with LAPD.
Really?
The way that they treat their officers. I learned a term from LAPD, and I thought I had learned all the foul words in life. But a term that I heard from LAPD, which is so accurate, because I tell everybody, this is not normal. I've never seen a department eat their young in the way that LAPD does, ever.
What's the term? That eat their young?
Rat fuck. You get rat fucked at LAPD.
I have not heard that.
That
it must have been fairly new.
That is such
I have not heard that before.
a true term.
Rat fuck.
Getting rat fucked.
So, if I understand it correctly, it's basically getting screwed by rats in a department?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I can see how that term came around.
Because, these things I said, popularity, nepotism, retaliation for being a whistleblower, discrimination, whatever it is that gives rise to some sort of internal affairs complaint, that all goes out the window with LAPD. No one is safe at the LAPD. And I think a great example of that, you just had Sarah on your podcast. Sarah was a stud. Sarah is really well liked. In her probationary year as a sergeant, she was named Sergeant of the Year at the LAPD out of, 8,500 or maybe it was 9,000 at the time cops as a female, as a mom, all those things. And they went after her.
Sarah pissed off somebody.
Yes.
You should, yeah.
But there's so many people that are studs, that are workers, that they go after. They manufacture discipline. LAPD manufactures discipline all the time. My first Board of Rights that I did with LAPD, I won it, they wanted to give a police officer 22 days off over a mouth beef on Instagram where he had a private account. There was no anything about him being a police officer at all on his account, especially nothing relating to the LAPD.
22 days?
22 days.
Jeez, I've seen cops get less than that for stealing money.
Yes, yes.
Not saying it's a right thing to do, it's a bad thing to do, but 22 days over exercising your First Amendment. Is that what you're telling me? Wow.
Yes.
Okay. How did that go?
I beat it. The board was like, "What are you doing?" Because the policy for social media with LAPD says there has to be a nexus to the department.
It has to be a what?
Nexus to the department. It has to connect. Like, if you say something shitty on social media and you're in your police uniform, and giving that opinion and it makes the department look bad.
Yeah.
Okay, fair game. But this is a private account where someone is not holding themselves out to be a police officer.
So you're telling me a patrol cop, I'm assuming?
I believe so. It's been a while.
Okay, regular cop, not like a command staff or something.
No.
For saying something or for beefing somebody on social media got 22 days, where I've seen command staff get away with domestic violence or DUIs.
Yes.
Oh. I'm just saying.
Yes.
People can put two and two together.
Yes.
Somebody above the law, I guess.
Another thing is like LAPD, because it's so big and it's so
dysfunctional.
It's dysfunctional, but I think the majority of the league attorneys, I used to be a league attorney, I'm no longer a league attorney, have only worked with the LAPD. So I think that I have a different perspective. I know a lot of people at PSB talk a lot of shit about me. People who I've never met before.
Yeah.
I've never encountered, disparage me, how horrible I
Means you're
am.
doing something right.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's like the Donald Trump version of she's a nasty woman, It's kind of like that. And
She's a nasty, nasty woman.
yeah, she's a nasty woman. And you're goddamn right I am. And the reason they don't like me is because I have the perspective of working with other departments, very large and very small.
Yeah.
And I will say, the way LAPD conducts their internal affairs process is not done at I don't know, a small agency. I'm trying to think of one that I've worked with recently. It wouldn't be done at, Pasadena PD this way. It wouldn't be done at Oakland PD. It would not be done at LA County Sheriff like this.
Well, the PD always have their own pension, on this, on that.
Oh, you guys think you're so special. You don't even
yeah.
use the NATO call signs.
Yeah,
you have a different call
when
sign.
I lateraled, I had to learn. Okay, it's copy versus Roger. It's 457 LAPD versus CalPERS. This and that. That's policy. This policy. I was like, well, why so different? Overall, tactics remain the same, but why do we have to LAPD be so different? And certain things that are very intimate to LAPD, I respect cultural things, but then others just don't make sense. Like what you're just saying.
Oh, I have a bunch of them, and I'm glad I'm on here because I hope some LAPD officers watch this and start asserting their rights a little bit more because it's not normal. But if you only know one thing, you think it's normal. For example, when an officer gets contacted about an internal affairs complaint, they'll get an email and it just says, contact Sergeant so-and-so to set up an interview for this.
Yeah,
Doesn't
I
say
remember
what
those.
it's about. Doesn't say sometimes if they're accused, witness, anything. And any other agency on earth, and I'm talking about rinky-dink ones I worked with and big ones, they give you a memo. They give you a memo on the letterhead from IA. Dear Officer Smith, we are investigating you for the following. Bad search, bad seizure, theft, whatever, falsifying evidence, whatever it is. They list each allegation. If it's a violation of state law, they'll put that. If it's a policy violation, they will put the policy numbers in there. And and that's how it's done everywhere else, sign given to the officer. Because your peace officer's Bill of Rights in California requires that. LAPD doesn't do that. And every time I have an internal affairs interview, I either email the sergeant or call them and I say, what are the allegations? What are the policy violations? I like to make sure that's clear when we start the interview, what it is. Because if they start asking about something else, I'll say, whoa. Either we set up another interview to talk about that, or you're going to give me time to prep them about that now because you're violating POBAR. You didn't give them notice. And the reason the notice is important is so that they can have a meaningful discussion with counsel. The other thing that LAPD does that no one else does that I'm challenging right now is the way they do Skelly. Skelly is our constitutional law that guarantees you a due process right to have a hearing, not a letter, Chief McDonald, a hearing to state your case, to plead your case before they fire you. And LAPD only gives officers the chance to do a Skelly letter. The law in Skelly is very clear. You get a hearing in front of a neutral decision maker. You get to present your evidence. Another thing LAPD is really bad about is giving the officers their Skelly materials. Before they write that Skelly letter, which is supposed to be a hearing, they have a right to have all the materials upon which that decision was based. They regularly don't supply that. And then, whoever reads them. That's the thing. There's always confusion of where the letter should be sent, who reads it, whatever. No matter where I send it to anymore, I CC Dominic Choi every single time on it.
Dominic Choi?
He's the assistant chief to
The current chief?
to Chief McDonald, who some people believe that, Choi's really the acting boss.
Chief McDonald is the current chief, right?
Yes.
I am so
Yes.
I made a decision to not detach myself from LAPD. Right after I lateraled to a different department, and even further now that I'm retired, that I don't really care. All I care about is literally watching the work that people like you do, following my guests who have their cases, and just some of my classmates. And when I see what's happening, it boggles my mind.
But I've never worked with an agency where there's even confusion of who should the Skelly letter really go to.
But they don't explain that to you.
No, they don't.
Do you know what they educate us in the academy?
Nothing.
Have you ever looked into that?
Nothing.
Zero.
Nothing.
Nada.
I was working with a young officer the other day, and he didn't know what POBAR was. And I was like, this is a sin that they don't teach you this stuff. They teach you all the laws and things and that, but they don't teach you anything about what your rights are, so you have no clue. Regularly, I will ask officers, do you have SB2 coverage? If it looks like it's going to be an issue that goes to post. What is SB2? Holy moly.
Yeah.
And, the Skelly process with larger agencies like LASD or San Bernardino County Sheriff is obviously smaller agencies. I speak to the chief of police directly.
Yeah.
I meet with the chief of police directly. And so this was a very shock to me. I was almost insulted. Oh, I can't meet with you. You're too big for me to meet with you.
That was LAPD.
Yes, LAPD is the only one who does this. So, for example, at LASD or San Bernardino County Sheriff, you get to meet with a member of command staff. Okay. Obviously, the chief or undersheriff or sheriff can't handle every single thing, but you do get a commander assigned to you to do your Skelly hearing. I get to sit there. I can do a PowerPoint. I can write them a brief. We can have negotiations about discipline, and this is how it's supposed to go.
So you tell me that massive building in downtown LA that I've been to, that you've been to,
201 North Vig?
Yeah, that all these floors, all those people with brass that go in and out, that drive their unmarked cars, take home cars, that so much budget goes to spend, and nobody in that entire building is able to meet with you.
They refuse to. If you ask them, I know other league attorneys have asked for in-person hearings before, they refuse. I just wrote a Skelly letter the other day. I demanded it in person, and I'm going to keep doing it every time because this is it's a huge due process issue. I wish the union would take that up. The union should bring some sort of action to make the PD comply with due process, Supreme Court law. And it's a process that's not unique to police. Any public employee has that. Fire, teachers, you name it. Everybody gets that. Yeah. And everybody else on earth does a hearing. I've done them for firefighters too. I have in the past been contacted by teachers. And
all the union
people. LAPD is the only one, and it's like an abusive relationship where you don't know. It doesn't have to be abusive. It's like they keep you in the dark about these things.
They really do.
The other challenge with LAPD too is the way policies are handed down. For example, if I go to Anaheim Police Department, they have a Lexapol policy. And it's an 800-page policy, and that's the policy, and we're all clear on it. For the department. It's easily accessed on their website. I can download the new version. No surprises. LAPD, you know this. There's policy that is not easily accessible on the web. It's all split up. It's very bizarre. And then they'll have a side letter or a memo on this or a thing on this. Those. Do you know about general order blah, blah, blah? Are you effing kidding me? I have no access to those. Yeah. And recently I was looking for the latest LAPD policy on body worn, which is actually really old. I thought there would be like a newer one.
How
And
old?
gosh, older than you think. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Because the body worn cameras, I think, came into play with LAPD around 2016, 2017.
Yeah, and that's a
That's
long time
when I
ago.
started. Yeah,
So
because I was one of the first wave of officers they slapped cameras on, which I didn't know any better. I think it's a great thing. I think
I do
cameras are a
too.
great thing. It saved me both of my internal affair complaints that saved me, and yeah,
I do too. I actually think it's a good thing. Um, but it was a search to find which is and I'll ask internal affairs sergeants
yeah,
sometimes. Is this the most current one or is there a different one? Sometimes they have to call somebody because it's so disorganized, and the way that okay, here's a letter from Chief Moore. Oh, well, Chief Beck had this, da da
yeah,
da da. And that happens all the time. There's no there should be just like I can go on Anaheim's site. I'm not just like I was born in Anaheim, so they have a
yeah,
soft spot in my heart, and I've repped them a
yeah,
bunch. I'm not just
yeah,
like, oh, they're perfect, but I'm just using them
yeah,
for example.
yeah,
I can easily go download their policy before I meet with
yeah.
a client, and they will give me something that says policy, boom, 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 and I meet with them. Um, it's almost like this little game, and I've seen in boards, the advocates are like, oh, you see this general order from 1999? Like,
Yeah.
get out of here. Why are you playing games? It shouldn't be like that. It's cards on the table. I also hate the Board of Rights. I don't believe in the Board of Rights. No other agency has a Board of Rights. It is the shittiest kangaroo court you've ever seen in your life.
And it's funny because kangaroo court, it also depends. Like if you have a case coming up and you gotta go see the in front of Board of Rights, it's like, how do I know those people are not gonna be prejudiced against me, or selected to vote a certain way or the other, or
It is, and it's
my
a
case.
Sophie's choice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me choose between command
Mm-hmm.
staff that are all trying to lick the butt of the chief
Mm-hmm.
to bump up,
Mm-hmm.
bump up, bump up, or should I pick the civilians that know nothing about police work?
Both can be equally bad because the command staff, and civilians. Let's be honest. In the last few years, since like last 5 years, I can't say the civilians love the cops. Especially since George Floyd, it's like it seems like they've all been against us for years now, for like last 5-6
You know,
years. So it's a double-edged sword.
I've almost every attorney who does the boards opts for the civilian boards now, because it just became so clear that the command staff boards are just like
Isn't
stamp
that
what
sad?
the chief is gonna do.
How sad is that you are forced to select the least of two evil? I'm not saying civilian board is evil, but like you're forced to select the least of the two evil. Like
Neither is
thinking that
good.
your department's not gonna have you back.
Yeah,
So I'm just
so
gonna go with the ones who maybe not knowing what police job is about, but they have a heart in order to side with me. That's sad.
and to put you on game, to put LAPD officers on game, I hope that watch this is if I go to any other agency on the planet, they do arbitration. The arbitrator is usually a retired lawyer or judge. And in the area of public safety, there's a bunch of them to choose from that know what Skelly is, that know what POBAR is, that know what the Firefighters Bill of Rights is, that are familiar with all these issues, that have worked on these cases and have legal education or civil service boards. Every other agency, LAPD is the only agency on earth that uses this Board of Rights system with civilians who most of them are not attorneys. And then the ones that are attorneys aren't criminal attorneys. They are unfamiliar with public safety. They're unfamiliar with administrative law. I had a Board of Rights. It was an opted board where I had 2 civilians on it who had no legal education. And the one
Whoa.
lawyer who was on there was like some sort of property attorney.
Whoa.
I am not joking. I raised a Skelly issue in the case. They had me that night go home and write them a memo on what Skelly was because they did not know Skelly. They did not know what the Peace Officers Bill of Rights is. And that's upsetting They don't even send like the Board of Rights members to any sort of like I don't, to my knowledge, they don't send them to any sort of training to educate them on these key legal issues. Because if I'm raising a statute of limitations issue, you need to understand the Peace Officers Bill of Rights that gives you that statute. If you're going to be, ruling on public employees, you should know what Skelly is. If you don't know the rules of engagement, how can you make a decision on if this matter was adjudicated fairly and lawfully? And that same case where no one knew what Skelly was, because none of the actually there is one criminal defense board member. He's very good. I like him. But, he's only one. So having people who aren't familiar with criminal law, that same case involved a search and seizure, like civilian complaint, Fourth Amendment issues. They patted me down, this and this. I have to walk them through, Terry v. Ohio, like Graham, whatever. You have to walk them through these cases. And
that's a lot.
They didn't even understand that my client had probable cause to go into a car. I actually had a sergeant that I had on the stand for another reason. I was like, you educate, you're an FTO. I need you to educate this board on when you can get into a car, when you can pat down a civilian, when you can pat down a passenger, because they didn't know that. And in their decision making, they were going to decide whether or not my client unlawfully searched a car. But they don't know what the rules are.
All those case laws are very important, especially when it comes to passengers, with the stuff like within arm's reach, all that kind of stuff. That's very important.
So they've got to either get rid of the board or start staffing it with people who understand police work, or just go to the system that everybody else uses, arbitration with arbitrators who understand these rules, or do, fire's smart. Fire, if they don't get a civil service hearing by their city in their firefighters' Bill of Rights, and maybe Peace Officers' Bill of Rights needs to be amended. If they don't get that, they ask for an administrative law judge hearing. And there's an office called, in the state of California, called it's OAH. I forget what it stands for. But they have administrative law judges, and so that's their jam. Yeah. And you have the hearing before them. Same thing. Court reporter, testimony's taken. It's heard. The matter's taken under submission, and they write an opinion. But something more fair. Mm-hmm. And the way the board is, I've noticed sometimes, it's kind of like picking a jury in a way. If you pick a bad board, it's done. There's some board members that are very good and thoughtful, and some that are more experienced that understand. There's one in particular I really like that does civil service hearings with the county of LA as well. So I knew him I had experience with him on a hearing when I did ALAD's work, and he just knew the issues. Yeah. But he's been doing that a long time. They have some, when they have newer board members that are very unfamiliar with the process, they a lot of times will just turn to the chair. The chair is the most senior one, sits in the middle, and it's like they're intimidated by the process because they're new to it, and then they kind of just go with the flow. Yeah. And that's really hard. I think we banished the board for real.
No, it definitely makes sense. I mean, even I had to learn all of that the hard way, through my critical incident, through my dealing with an attorney, through my depositions and court case, years and years, all of that, for it to eventually settle, just like everything else that he does, settle everything. But well, you know what? Enough of that. I think we've beat the dead horse. I think that the common agreement that me and you can have here, and a lot of cops who are watching us, and I hope are watching us, is that do yourself a favor and educate yourself, because academy gives you zero. You know what my education academy was about? IA and all the procedures you talked about? This. Ready? Stay away from IA. That's it. That's all the education.
As if it's a choice.
Yeah.
If it's your choice to encounter them.
When you go through it, right? it's terrifying, and that sometimes a punishment. The process itself is a punishment. So yeah, I think we talked enough about it. And
Actually, I have one last thing to say on
oh,
that.
please.
On the board. So the people who prosecute the LAPD officers are either advocates like sergeants in the PSB, or now they have city attorneys that are doing that. The police litigation section.
Mm-hmm.
I had an issue come up recently, a legal issue, where it needed to be discussed with the board. The board consults with their legal counsel to decide the legal issue, and their counsel is the city attorney's office. The city attorney's office advises the board on issues for the Board of Rights.
That is totally backwards.
That would be like, to put it in perspective,
Yeah.
if I was in criminal court and the judge was like, you know what, Ms. Castronovo, I want you to school me up on why I should rule this way, and took me back there and left the DA like sitting there.
That is totally ass backwards. I don't know about that. No wonder.
It's a rigged system.
Yeah, it's a rigged system. It's a rigged system that's made directly to, and that's only with LAPD.
Yes.
Wow. That's borderline criminal.
Most other agencies, the command staff, they have private law firms that do that, advise them.
Okay, that's better, but then that's wow. I guarantee you, most cops in LAPD do not know about this, and I hope
know.
to God they're watching this, because we go into this thinking we're gonna get fair and unbiased judgment, not knowing this. That is like infuriating right now.
And I know I spent a lot of time on that, but it's something, no one talks about
I'm glad
it,
you shared that.
and no one knows it.
I'm glad you shared that. That is a news bomb, dude. And I'll say it to all my friends who are still employed by LAPD. That's very, very unfair. And I hope to God you can do something about it, or it changes, because that's totally not fair. Not only is the whole process a punishment in its own, you also you sit there, you hope and you pray to get a fair judgment and a fair shot, and then just to find out that you're not gonna have one.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible. That makes me angry. Thank you for making me angry.
I have a really good knack for making people angry.
Yeah, no, just not for me, just for other officers out there. But yeah, we will definitely talk about that. Yeah, but wow. Okay, past that. Above
Mind
all that,
blown. Mind
I
blown.
really am. I really, you just blew my mind. Yeah, and I'm gonna look more into that. But above all that, it's a great place, right? It's a great place department to work for. Just educate yourself. But just like in business, you have to also educate yourself and know what you're doing. But it's just so much information, because I think it's unfair where all these young cops get out there and they're hungry to do the work, to start hooking and booking and chase gangsters, do all that. There's really no, what are you supposed to do on your days off? Sit there and read your poll bar? I'm gonna be honest, I haven't. And there's a reason why they say you read poll bar, I think, twice in your life, right? When you promote to be a sergeant and when you get in trouble.
Yes.
I never wanted to be a sergeant or try to promote it, and I've got in trouble, but I still never really read my poll bar besides parts of it. And I don't want to. Who wants to sit there and read poll bar and all these policies and all that? It's boring. I want to get out there. I want to do hooking and booking and do police work. Why do I have to sit there and try to educate myself on all that to protect myself from my own department? That's not fair.
What's not in your mind until it happens to you that someone might be out to get you. You're trusting that won't happen.
Yeah. And the last person, the entity you expect to go after you is your own department. And then when they
eating their young, rat fucking you.
Yeah. Happened to me, been there, done that. Luckily, I realized this is not for me. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to let it affect me. So I packed my shit and I left. Like, I'm out. I'm not dealing with this. Deuces. So, worst case that you had to handle or still handling right now? Like,
worse how?
Most amount of negligence or corruption on behalf of the department when it comes to going after the officer.
Oh my gosh.
Most obnoxious stuff. Like, hit me.
I have one right now that's been in the news a lot. I mean, I'm leaving LAPD for a second. We'll put them
Yeah.
over here because
Okay.
they're always going to be
Give
the
them a
worst.
break. We all know they got issues. Yeah.
They're always
Let's talk about.
and it's funny when I have
Yeah.
bad days because like I get so angry about this
Yeah.
because I've met some of the most quality people, the officers of the LAPD, and
There's a lot.
there's so many good people, like so many really good people who work in
Intelligent.
dangerous areas that are brave, and I watch them get done dirty. And I sort of get compassion fatigue from that because I fight like hell for them. And then I get so dejected by the unfairness of it. And I have days where I'm like, fuck this. I'm never taking an LAPD case ever again because I can't take the heartache. Like,
Until
I
the
can't.
next one,
It's
yeah.
aging me, you know? But I have a case that's been in the media a lot lately. It made international news, which is a case involving the Glendora Police Department.
Oh, good old Glendora Police Department.
Good old Glendora Police
Out of
Department.
all the cities, you would know in a quiet little white city.
Well,
Glendora.
I grew up here, and Glendora was always called Clandora because it was known to be a racist pocket of California, very homogenous, upscale. And so there has been a lot in the media about that case. But basically, I have an officer who was leading his department in arrests, a good officer, and he was the only Asian American at the department. And he was just brutally racially discriminated against. And when he confided in his union president about this, the union president went directly to the sergeant who was harassing him, told him. That sergeant went back through prior DPs, did his own little audit, and found fault.
Outside of the random audit policy?
Bingo.
And time frame?
Bingo.
Ooh, okay.
And started doing real petty shit like, oh, this pursuit that we reviewed and found no issue with, that, nothing bad happened. Oh, we're going to, now this pursuit, he actually took issue with a call for service, this sergeant, where the sergeant was a handling sergeant on scene.
That same sergeant.
Who, at the time, my client was probationary. And everything.
I wonder why it was that time frame was still.
Oh, no, wait. No, this is good. The client was probationary. When the call for service happened, and my client was like third banana on the scene. Like he's the backup quarterback.
He's the backup for the backup.
Yeah.
Okay, that matters.
That matters.
Okay.
Sergeant was there. Sergeant knew everything that had transpired. He was a handling sergeant. He actually audited that call for service.
On a closed call from DPs ago, outside a time frame of random audit.
My client had been on probation at that time.
Yeah.
Nothing had been wrong with that call because then my client completed probation.
And a
fully
sergeant was
vested.
there. I mean, sergeant closed the call as well.
Yes.
You would assume. Okay.
So, another thing that has come out of this with Glendora is and this is no secret either, we've just filed a lawsuit against the city of Glendora, which is public record. It's been filed upon the city. They have had a chronic issue of racial discrimination, prejudiced ideas.
Sounds like Torrance.
Oh, Torrance.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. They've gotten better though.
Yeah.
Gotten no better over the years. I think they learned from the lawsuits. They were back to back.
Yeah, I mean, but that's how you have to do it, right? Yeah. Like you've got to bring some consequences because they're not going to do it on their own. But Glendora, this isn't our lawsuit, was sending out arrest quotas on their MDTs to their officers.
Oh, so the quotas do exist in Glendora.
Yeah, and on their MDCs.
Oh, man.
Saying,
you gotta be
the jails are empty, there's crickets, pressure to get DUIs, but actually putting a number on their MDCs. And letting the officers know that if they didn't hit these quotas, that would impact their careers, which obviously invites corruption. This is unconstitutional.
We're talking about Glendora, not some department in the Midwest, right? We're talking about the progressive department with MDC, functional shops.
This is not a progressive department. You know what has come out in preparation for the filing of the lawsuit with Glendora? So my client was the only Asian American on the department. There had only been one previous
It's
Asian
your client's
American.
fault, by the way.
Of course it
Yeah,
is.
definitely his fault. Everything's his fault.
I'm mixed. I'm Mexican. I always like to say blame it on the Mexican, you know?
You should have checked the
that's what they did.
demographics.
He was the Mexican. They blamed it on.
Yeah.
But what came out in our preparation for filing the lawsuit is that Glendora Police Department has never employed one black officer in the history of the department.
Oh, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Come on,
In Southern California.
I'm sure it's a coincidence. I'm just being devil's advocate.
And you know what I think is interesting about that is twofold. One, I can't imagine that they haven't had one qualified black candidate to become a police officer. The other side of it I thought was, I wonder if black candidates had applied there and gotten the weirds from them and were like, you know what, I don't want to work here.
Now you open up a can of worms, my friend.
Open it.
Oh, I'm all for it. I'm liking what I'm hearing.
I like
to
pull the rock up and let the bugs come out. Let it expose it.
You might have some dragons under the rock, man. Not rock. No.
But in the lawsuit, we in our lawsuit we also allege, and this is based on information and belief and witnesses, that the current chief of police, who is going to decide my client's future and decide whether these actions were taken towards my clients in a retaliation for him, and he hadn't even made a complaint to HR or anything at that point about racial discrimination. This is confiding in his union president, who it's his union rep, like his union president, who he has a confidence with, dimed him out, that this chief is going to decide the outcome of an investigation that involves racial discrimination, retaliation, based on asserting, or reporting racial discrimination, that the current chief of police of Glendora, was at a camping trip with the former Glendora police chief, and there was a photograph taken of the two of them where the current police chief of the city of Glendora is giving a Nazi salute.
Wow.
That's the culture there. And this is the thing that frustrates me, is it's like, as an attorney, knowing this, sitting there talking to someone that I know is doing Nazi salutes in 2026, and I have to believe that he's going to do the right thing or even care about someone who is a minority being discriminated against.
And this is a homegrown chief, not a lateral chief.
No.
I mean,
that one.
There's a whole list you were just
that one's over. Wild. Like, wild.
No wonder it made international news.
Yeah.
So when is the hearing? Is that hearings coming up, or it's?
There's nothing coming up right now. The lawsuit just got filed, so the city just got served with it.
Wow.
It has been in the media. Every time the media has tried to contact Glendora, no comment, no comment, no comment.
They don't have like the media rep. Every
I think their PIO is just like no. They've just gotten shut out. When I read, they got Glendora was reached out to for comment, no comment. But all the people that they now know have done all this racist conduct, they're all still working there. They're all still supervising. You have the chief of police doing Nazi salutes still there. And it's like, how should the citizens of that city feel? Because now...
You should ask them.
Yeah. How do you feel knowing that? I will say... I did go to a city council meeting before the lawsuit was filed. We had filed the government claim that's required for it. And my co-counsel and I went to the city council meeting for Glendora, which was actually popping. I'm telling you, they had people outside with TVs. It was crazy. It was like a World Cup game.
For that or in general?
Just in general.
Wow, that's a proactive city.
Yeah, it was a full house. And there was a gentleman who addressed city council before me. He was a white dude. And he had read the story in the paper about the racial, or I'm sorry, the quotas. And I'm sure with the racist culture, those quotas are going to lean more towards certain types of people than others. And this resident of Glendora was so outraged by the article, he asked the city council, what are you going to do about these Jim Crow era tactics that your police are engaging in?
Was that question answered?
No, they just, I gave them the business too. They just sit there blank.
Man, that's a bad comparison word to use. Jim Crow in 2026. You don't want that word to be thrown at you. But hey, if the shoe fits,
And it's like, no one's first choice is filing a lawsuit. We filed a government claim and we went before city council. They knew all this. And they didn't say boo. They didn't do anything. They didn't make any changes. Nothing. No remediary measures whatsoever. And so, and now this has to happen. Now we have to file a lawsuit because you're not going to do anything. And this isn't right. You can't treat people like that.
wow, it's hard. It's really hard to accept the fact that something like that is happening, not only nowadays in 2026, but also in California, in Southern California, and in a city that I know and I've been to many, many times. I've family and friends living there. Never been pulled over by Glendora PD, but to hear that, it's like, wow. I mean, nepotism's always been there. Good
Mm-hmm.
old boy club has always been there, but like straight up blunt, blatant racism
Yes.
of your own people, that's that's pretty messed up if you ask me.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that's a culture.
that's a bad culture.
It's a bad culture.
Yeah.
My client was subject to racist comments in briefing in front of his entire shift. Where's the command staff to shut that down? It's just they knew this. They knew these issues. One of the people who made a really awful comment to my client's Korean. They were at a work dinner and it was at a sushi restaurant. And the lieutenant who oversaw this internal affairs investigation, by the way,
Oh, okay.
told my client to go get in the kitchen and cook for them in front of all his colleagues.
I don't know what's worse, the fact that
He doesn't know that
Koreans
Koreans
and
are,
sushi are
yeah,
not-
that's not a Korean
not,
food.
yeah, that's either that or the fact that he made such stupid remark, man. Wow. And is the lieutenant and your client are in a good buddy relationship? I mean, I don't
No,
understand if
no,
like
I mean,
I'm
he
best friends
wouldn't.
with a lieutenant. I'd be like, ah, man, you get your ass in the back.
But
and
tell me
cook,
why that lieutenant is now in charge of his internal affairs investigation,
Oh man, this
where
story is
where
getting gnarlier
racism
and
is at the
gnarlier.
center of it.
This is getting interesting by the second, by the minute. Wow, wow, yeah. First of all, lieutenant needs some cultural education to Koreans, Japanese, and Chinese and other Asian cultures. I think that would help. But that's bad. That's pretty bad, dude.
But you can
Wow.
see if the lieutenant's doing things like that, if the chief is doing
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that,
It all
how
starts from the top.
how do you think everyone else is going to behave? You set the tone
Hmm.
for what is acceptable.
Yeah, yeah. Leadership matters, and it starts from the top. When I was leaving LAPD, what's happening with LAPD right now? When I was leaving it 5, 6 years ago, I saw it coming. I saw the influx of these bottom of the barrel scraped P1s and probationers and boots that are pushing through the cracks. Not only have I seen it, I remember on my way out from LAPD, I was working like a couple of last overtime gigs, right? And I was worked with my background officer from like 5 years before. I was like, dude, I'm out, like next DP. Can you please answer my question? How come you guys are hiring trash? Right? And he's like, I'm gonna tell you too, I'm out. This is my last DP too. I've been doing backgrounds for years. I write a packet, I say denied. I send it upstairs. They send it back down, say no, push it through. I'm like command staff or captain. We need this person. We need staffing. Push it through. So I make some shit up and I push it through. So I'm like, at that rate, that's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of these kind of officers. They fly through probation, again, push through the cracks. They become P2s. You're gonna have incidents where money gets stolen, domestic violence,
There was
DUIs,
just an incident of
theft.
money
Oh
being
yeah,
stolen.
yeah. All domestic animal abuse, lying on in court is gonna happen. So
Yeah.
fast forward 5 years, I'm like, oh, money stolen from the vehicle. Oh, lying in court. Oh, domestic abuse. Well, you guys pushed these rookies through the cracks. I saw with my own eyes. Why are you surprised now that you guys hired trash? Not everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I look at the photos too, like the lack of physical standards boggles my mind. I don't know if it's up your alley or not, but to me, at least when I was going through the academy, yeah, we were still getting sweat in DI's office. We get to do PT. Now I look at these photos, and it's just like, what happened to physical standards? Like, where's all that? How much further we're gonna lower and lower and continue to lower the standards of police work, and how bad is this gonna get? Because gangsters stay fit, 23 hours in lockdown. All they do is they work out, and you have these chunky monkeys on the department who can't even jump over the wall, and you hand them a government badge, and here we go, serve and protect. You're like, that's not a fair. Uh, uh, that's not fair. It's just like you're putting them in danger. And I'm saying this not because I hate or judge. I feel for those cops. You're not gonna give them enough training, enough tools to do the job. They're gonna fail. You're failing them.
Yeah.
You really are.
And I think it is a safety issue. It absolutely is a safety issue. We all know this. Like, one LAPD saying I do like is look sharp, act sharp, be sharp. And look, who's a gangster going to try? Someone who looks like you, or someone who's, 300 pounds, breathing heavily, getting out of their car. It is a safety issue for that officer, but it's also a safety issue for other officers. It's also a safety issue for the public. What if someone is in need of being dragged away from a dangerous situation that has become disabled? Firefighters have these standards because they've got to carry people.
CDC have physical standards.
SWAT does the testing where you've got to drag the dummy and all those things, so you can be prepared if your partner goes down to save their life. And the other thing is I think cities should think about the liability of that for a multitude of reasons. Because, look, if someone is not physically able to handle a suspect, they are not physically able to handle them without lethal force, and you have some whale of an officer that just has to go their gun and shoot.
Or a 100-pound female officer who can skip all the criteria for using deadly force and go straight to the deadly force. Because she can say, hey, he's 3 times my size, he's got cauliflower ears, and all I had to do to even the situation is use lethal force.
Don't hate on my female officers.
I'm not hating on the female officers. Listen, and you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I've gotten heat for that, and I've said before, I don't think most females should be on a job purely for safety reasons. Are they capable of doing the job? Yes, especially de-escalating. Yeah, women have certain perspectives that men can't, and a lot of times they have much more calmer ego or no ego versus man. Oh my God, how dare you? And I'm a cop. But then purely out of safety reasons. Like if I put a 100-pound female versus a 220-pound, or versus me, like it's gonna be a 10 out of 10 losing situation unless they go straight to a firearm and lethal force. It's just not fair.
Or, and I believe this strongly across the board. I think more training needs to be given for physicality. Look, Israel has a military force that's half women. They created Krav Maga.
Yeah.
I do jujitsu. There are ways to even the playing field, even if you're a person my size.
But that falls on the person and what they do on their personal time.
Yes, but I don't think it should. I think in the same way that you learn in the academy all these other things, that should be a thing. There should be extensive training given that.
I agree.
Take a note from IDF.
I agree.
Those are some bad bitches. And, that training was invented because of that, to account for the fact that half your force is going to be smaller than the next one.
But then, although to challenge you, I know we're talking about IDF and Jiu-Jitsu and Krav Maga. LAPD has become so. I don't want to use the word that I usually used to use because I promise to God I will not cuss as much or as least as I can. Or so weak and diluted in exercising arrest and control. It's all about de-escalation, 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 de-escalation. It started back then when I was with LAPD, all about de-escalation. So when do you go hands-on? Like there has to be a threshold where okay, I'm done de-escalating. Shit is about to go down.
Mm-hmm.
Now I go hands-on. Like there needs to be a clear line. It's gone, Nicole. Like that line, even when I was with them, has become so diluted. You de-escalate until you no longer can, and by then your own life is in danger. So draw the line somewhere. And then Krav Maga is great, but Krav Maga is not necessarily good vibes with de-escalation. Like it has to get to the point of actual physical force, near deadly force, where Krav Maga can go into play. And by then, if let's hope everything ends well, then they'd be calling you. Hey Nicole, I'm in trouble now. I've de-escalated as much as I could, but now I'm at the point where I use Krav Maga and I need your help.
Well,
So
I think one that just like the military, I think that the LAPD and other agencies should pay people to work out, have PT, have PT.
I
Give
agree.
these resources, make them available, build it into their schedule for their day.
I agree.
Do those things. Offer things like that are wellness for the
Mm-hmm.
officers, that keep them healthier, that keep them from having comp claims,
Mm-hmm.
that protect them, that stop lethal encounters. I mean, that this, if you're not going to focus on your officers' physical safety, then you are lending yourself to more lethal encounters, which are opening yourself up to more litigation and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that needs to change. And I come from a military family. In the military, they weigh you, and if you're too fat, they tell you to lose weight, and they kick you out if you don't.
Yeah.
At some point, I do think it's a fitness for duty issue. If you are just can't run and keep up with a suspect,
Yeah.
you know, that's just what it is. But I don't know. I think a lot more needs to be offered as well across the board with wellness. I do know that BSS exists. I know there's some passionate people there. But one thing I've noticed is when people go ROD, when they're relieved of duty pending
Mm-hmm.
any sort of
Mm-hmm.
admin, there's not tailor-made support for that. There's not enough support for that. And that is lonely. It is lonely. I had an officer kill himself while he was on administrative leave, because mentally it's really hard for people. It's like the lockdown. They're inside all day and have to stay home during the certain hours and check in with their sergeant. And, none of their friends now want to talk to them because, if there's some sort of level of controversy, they're under stress. And it goes on for forever. They've got this hanging over their head. Am I going to lose my profession? Am I going to lose my home? All these things. And they don't have any sort of setup for peer support for that. And I think, and I know personally of officers who have gone through things like that, come out exonerated on the other side, that have said and even asked to volunteer to provide peer support. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, man, I've been there. It's going to be okay. Or
Mm-hmm.
if it's not, it's still okay. Something. Because the crazy thing is, too, is when people all of a sudden they decide, oh, that didn't happen. You didn't do something wrong. Now we're going to bring you back to the job. After you left them out in the cold for a year, no one calls them and checks
Checks
in
on
on them
them.
except to make sure that they're at home. I've seen a lot of people turn to alcohol, drink. We're talking about obesity, get really heavy because they're depressed. Gets dark for them. And I think that would be a really good thing to do.
Can you share the story about the officer that committed suicide?
I had I had an officer who was on administrative leave. on a case that he was totally innocent of. And it was beatable. And I don't know what was going on, you know. I thought this person seemed fine, you know. And that's something that so many people say when they know someone who commits suicide. They seem fine.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is a very split second decision. And I'll never forget that because it changed the way I handled my officers now. I've always been way attuned to mental health. I'm a huge, huge supporter of therapy. I go to therapy. I think everybody should go to therapy.
Same.
And, you know, even if you don't believe in, you know, whatever it is, people, I don't believe in it, this, that, or the other. This is how I've encouraged officers to go to therapy lately. I've actually had a couple where I've told them, if you want me to represent you, I need you to go to therapy. Not because they did anything wrong or I think they're a psycho or anything, but because I can see from the outset that this is going to be a rough one and it's going to be a long one. And I feel a responsibility to do that after that happened. That just forever changed me as a police attorney. Because I think if there had been more support in place, you know, you never know. But someone checking in, someone encouraging you, not just being alone in it and isolated in it. And there is something that I've discovered recently that I really like. There is kind of like there's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline you can call. They actually have a hotline called Cop Line. I just learned about this organization. 24/7 support for officers. And what I think is really cool about that is the people who are trained to take the calls are all law enforcement. Because I do think that can be difficult when you have a job like a firefighter, a police officer. You know, how do you explain to, like, you know, 35-year-old psychology degree holding person about the trauma you see every day, or the culture of your department, or the fear that happens when someone pulls a gun in your face? You know, it's like they can't, it takes a lot of information downloading maybe to catch them up on what's going on in your life. And I think no different than when I talk to another working mom. There's an understanding of those things. Or we were talking about being a business owner. There's an understanding, oh yeah, I get it, you know? And I think that is a great source of comfort. And so I think for police, I think that's a really cool resource that I've now learned about, because I think that is a barrier sometimes for police to get mental health help, is a feeling like, well, they're not going to get me. They're not going to understand it. And I don't really feel like explaining it to them. And so I have been talking about like resources like that, where someone knows what you've gone through. There are some therapists out there that were former police officers that do that work. I think that's incredible that they do that, but there's just not enough to go around.
I'm going to put you in contact with certain people. Everything you said, 100% true. Been there, done that. Still go to therapy. Take advantage of BSS. Helped me tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
I started using BSS back when I was at LAPD. And thank God to certain therapists that were working for the city of Los Angeles. As a matter of fact, I'll say his name. He's in charge of the entire BSS for city of Los Angeles now, for the PD.
Wow.
Eric Dorian. Phenomenal therapist, specialist. Shout out to you, Derek. We're still staying in touch. I'll try to get him down here at some point. He helped me a lot. He basically was the first therapist that put me on a journey, and it's like it helped me so much that I've had a few different therapists since then that helped me over the decade that I've gone through. And dude, I've sat there, I've cried, I've spent boxes of napkins in my tears. I've cleaned up, uncovered everything on the job, outside the job, all the way down to my childhood. That helped me so much. So for any cop out there, I don't care if you're SWAT, sniper, bomb, whatever, you may be the most gangsta cop out there, I guarantee you there's something that you have inside of you that you need to or possibly can benefit by using therapy. So I highly recommend that. And the reason why I became a peer support counsel for first responders is because of that. Because I've gone
Mm-hmm.
through it, I know what it's like, you know. So maybe if I talk to cops now and I can tell them, hey man, as a peer support counselor, I can only advise so much. If you get enough of me, go a step further. Go talk to a licensed therapist. You don't have to pick one. You can try multiple ones, but help yourself because resources are there. Departments have it. They just don't broadcast it. There's like anonymous sessions that you can give you, and they just build a department
Mm-hmm.
without putting your name out there. Man, I think it's mandatory if you ask me. I think just like physical fitness, it should be mandatory to go see a therapist. It doesn't have to be like department assigned. Just go see one and get a receipt that you went and you saw one. See anyone, you know, childhood trauma, marriage, whatever. Just
Mm-hmm.
go out there, sit and talk, man. And it's we all need it. We're all humans. And the reason why I remember one time even when I had questions about therapy, this is when I understood that we all need therapy. I was talking to a therapist and she was telling me, "Well, I gotta go see a therapist." I'm like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, I gotta go see a therapist." I'm like, "You're a therapist?" It's like, "Yeah,
But she hears a
but
lot of heavy
but I
stuff.
gotta go see a therapist because of the shit that I hear as a therapist." And I was like, "If therapists see therapists, everybody need to see a therapist."
Mm-hmm.
So highly recommend and 100% agree with you. And everything you said is gold right there. That you know, first responders need to seek therapy and really take advantage of it.
And I think too, there's still so much stigma about going to therapy that's it'll make you look crazy or it'll make you look weak or wimpy or soft. But I gotta tell you, I take therapy very seriously because to me it's a vending machine.
Mm-hmm.
Garbage in, garbage out. If you want to go in there, shoot the shit and bullshit, then you're not gonna get anything out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do the work and actually, okay, I'm gonna talk about this really awful thing that happened when I was a child. And I'm going to face it and I'm going to deal with it. You know, the relief that comes from that, now we're exercising that demon, right? It'll
Mm-hmm.
still always be there a bit, but we're working through it. And I think that takes a lot of courage, actually. You know, I know I had a friend recently get sober and go to rehab. And the first thing I said to them was, I really admire what you're doing because going to a place like that is really brave. Because for those 30 days, you're going to have to face all your shit all day, every day. And that's the thing where I've seen, we all do this. It doesn't have to be police officers. Everybody has a band aid they use to cover it up when they don't want to
Mm-hmm.
deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's drinking or sleeping around, or the socially acceptable one of working 90 hours a week so that yeah, of course,
Yeah,
me
I did
too.
all three of those plus
Work's
more.
always been my favorite
Yeah.
drug. And so and that one's okay, right? Oh gosh, look at Alex. He's
Yeah.
such a hard worker. Oh, Alex is dying inside and he just doesn't want to face it. So he's just
Oh
pushing it
man.
down because he's making himself too busy to deal with it.
Yep. Yep.
And I really just think that when you take that away, that's really brave. That's hard to do. It's hard to do.
It's work. It's work.
That
Like
tells me
and
someone's
it takes
actually a really
years.
strong person to
Yeah.
be willing to say, okay, I'm going to face it. I'm going to face it. I'm going to face that thing that I didn't want to think about for 20 years.
The hardest part about therapy and facing it is that you have to relive it all again through your memories. And I've had memories that go back decades, 20 plus years ago that I've did a pretty good job keeping in the closet with a
Mm-hmm.
big lock on. And then I had to open it and take that skeleton out one at a time and relive it again and again in my childhood and all that acute childhood trauma. And that was tough. That was tough. But looking back at it, it was all worth it. It was all worth it and made me, first and foremost, a better human being. It brought me closer to God. It made me a better husband, father. Like, I cannot imagine if I was the piece of shit that I used to be in my early 20s to like late 20s, and I thought I was the shit. Man, I am glad I did all that because now that I have a daughter and I'm a parent, I'm not bringing any of that and passing it on to my children. No
Absolutely
way.
not.
No way.
Absolutely not. And they learn by example.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what you said of like, I had to do that too. And it's very painful.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it took me 40 years to even tell a therapist about being sexually abused. You know, it took, or 35 years to even say it out loud. But guess what? Not facing it all those years didn't help anything. It didn't progress me into healing at all. And I had this analogy was made to me one time, and it actually stuck with me. And I think cops get a little too good at compartmentalizing because you have to for survival. You know, you just went to a dead kid call. You got to lock that shit down and now go deal with this, armed GTA suspect. And it's almost too good. But just because you compartmentalize something for a moment when it's appropriate doesn't mean that it's not going to affect you eventually. And the analogy I heard was it's like taking a barrel of nuclear waste and throwing it in the ocean. But eventually that barrel is going to start leaking.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I've seen people act out and have problems. A really common way that police officers and firefighters, I've had both, get in trouble is alcoholism. And, it starts leaking out. It starts leaking out. And it's like they want to put the genie back in the bottle. Let's drink it away. And, it's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get rid of the demon.
Yeah. You gotta go to the demon. You gotta seek therapy. I definitely agree. Wow. Well, good for you. Good for you. It took all those years. I think we all carry something deep down we don't talk about, and we end up carrying it to our graves,
Mm-hmm.
and even worse, passing it to our children.
Yes.
Because people who haven't healed their trauma, they can be walking around mean, angry, depressed, just frustrated, and the children see it, and then they don't know why mommy or daddy is the way they are, but mommy and daddy might be dying on the inside, but they don't talk about it, so they pass it on to their children. So the trauma,
Generational trauma.
the trauma that you don't heal becomes the trauma that gets passed on to your children, and that's basically like the worst thing you can do to your child. I love you to death. I'll die for you, but also here we go. All my bullshit is now your bullshit. Good luck. Off you go.
Yeah, and we will do anything for our children. We will. So, why wouldn't you make yourself the best version of yourself possible? Because again, monkey see, monkey do with kids.
Mm-hmm.
They see everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're in a dysfunctional marriage and you don't leave that, don't be surprised when your kid ends up in one, because that's what that was their example. That's all they know. Like you said, if I never see daddy do anything to cope or deal with his feelings or even acknowledge his feelings, and I'm a boy, well, I'm never going to have feelings. And then see how that goes for him later on. That
was me.
That's
exactly what I went through.
That's our duty as parents. We have a great responsibility.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on faith now that you've done the healing, you've seen things, through your career, you are a parent? Like, has that landed you with faith? Has it been the same, or views changed, and where do you stand now?
I grew up in a household where God was very important.
Christian, Catholic.
So my adoptive father was raised Orthodox Jew, and my mother was Protestant. My grandmother is Buddhist.
Wow, that's a wild mix.
But it's all about having faith. All of them were about faith. I'd go to synagogue with my dad. I went to church with my mom.
Wow.
My dad started going to church at the end of his life. And then I'd go to Buddhist temple with my grandmother. But I have always had instilled in me two things. One, there is a God. Whatever you want to call it, however you worship that God, there is a God. And two, that you need to conduct yourself accordingly. What I think I learned in the last year especially, it was a really rough year for me, was even though I believed in God, I wasn't submitting to God. here I am just white knuckling life, just trying to do it all on my own. And it wasn't even like out of ego or whatever. It like didn't occur to me, like give it to God. Like it didn't. And as I just committed more to going back to church and listening to the messages of the week, to making sure that I at least read one Bible verse a day, to journaling, to to contemplating these faith issues, it gave me a lot more peace. I would not have survived the cavalcade of bullshit that happened to me if I didn't have faith. And I realized too, my life started to change as I really leaned into God, that more godly people came in my life. And it's funny, people are almost surprised when they hear that I go to church on Sunday because I have a foul mouth. I'm a chain smoker. Look, I'm a sinner. I am.
Look,
But
the
what
Lord,
I,
yeah.
but I believe in God, and I'm not Jesus. That's just
None of us are. He was
I'm
perfect.
just not. And so I think sometimes people think that they don't see that, but that's how I was raised. And at the worst times and times where I've been alone, that's always been something there to turn to. And I think when you are more positive in the way that you're conducting your life, you attract better people in your life. That's been a big change. And it helped me make sense of a lot of hard things that had happened to me. And like what you talked about, saying how you got into peer support. I had a really close friend in my life, and I was talking to him about how I had met another woman who'd been through something very similar and traumatic that I had been through, and how it was really hard for me in the moment. It was really triggering for me personally, but I held it together. And the things that I was able to do in the moment that I wish someone had been able to do for me. And my good friend, who is also believes in God, said to me, you know what? Maybe that's why you had to go through that hard thing. Because God knew you could survive it, and that you needed to be there for someone who might not have survived it if you were not there. That's your peer support. Same thing. Maybe that's what it is. And when he said that, gosh, that lifted a lot off of me. We have these moments. God, why does this happen? Why does this terrible thing happen? If there can be some sort of good that comes out of evil, what a gift in a way, you know?
Preach, sister. You're right. Wow. That is a perspective, and perspective is everything.
100% it is. 100% it is.
Because you're not sitting here saying, oh my God, I'm a victim of this. How could this happen to me? I grew up, believing in God. Why would you do this? Why would you allow this to happen to me? You're not. You're saying, hey, this happened to me. But now I'm going to use that to help others. I love that.
Thank you.
Good for you. Don't ever let your past influence who you are. If anything, take that and use that to your advantage. Because I guarantee you, there are people out there. There's at least one person right now who's listening, and it's affecting their life. And it will affect them in a positive way. Because I am nobody in the podcast world. But even I've had people DM me and send me messages saying, hey, man, that one guest, that one conversation caused me to change my life drastically. I was like, whoa.
That's God.
That's God.
Because people always use a testimony, which I think is kind of a hokey term. And I think if you call it testimony, it turns people off. They think of like a tent revival, preach and all that. But that's testimony. It's just someone being real and sharing their stuff. Another podcaster was telling me they had someone on who had survived cancer, and how many people DM'd that person that were sick with cancer, and how much hope that gave them.
Yeah.
Hope is everything.
Hope is everything. And remember, you said earlier, I'm far from being perfect, right? I smoke, I curse, I do this. Who did Jesus hang out with? Who are his apostles?
Yeah.
Who did he share bread with or have dinner on Sabbath? Not the Pharisees and Sadducees from church, right? And I'm sure just like that, you also know people who are picture perfect, go to church, pastors, deacons, but the
BTK
inside,
killer was a deacon.
but the inside there's rotten flesh and
Yeah.
evil. And it's people like you and me, and I'm just like you. I'm far from perfect, with my horrible anger issues and trauma and drinking and womanizing, porn addiction and this addiction and that, hurting people for years with my mouth and my actions. Far from perfect. Yet he found me. He always had me, but he brought me back. Here you are, two of us, sinners, sitting here talking about God.
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago, if you would have met me, I'll be like, what, me? Talking about God? No, I'm going to go have a threesome
Yeah.
and drink.
Same.
Now, bro, that's God.
Yeah.
That's God, sister. I'm telling you right now.
I think that is. I think that that growth is all you can do. We're never going to be perfect, but we can grow and we can be better. And just trying to be the best version of yourself and effectuate good around the people in your life.
That right there. Be the example of good and serve people. Use your trauma, use your pain that you heal from to serve others. That right there, I think, is goals. It's point of life.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that story. And I'm glad you're on the right path.
Thank you. You too.
And God will open doors for you in ways that you can't even imagine.
Absolutely. That is I've seen it. It's true.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah, just don't let disgruntled cops affect your ways of thinking. But I know you won't. You got strong character in you, girl.
Thank you. Thank you. I try.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end this episode with.
Yeah, I got to get out of here before I start crying.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I would like to have you back at some point. Maybe after the whole big case settles.
Yeah.
We would like to do a part 2.
Awesome. Yeah.
Glendora PD shenanigans continue. And maybe we can, get a hold of that officer. So I'd love to have him on too eventually when the dust settles.
Yeah.
Because the truth should be known. And people deserve the truth.
Absolutely.
And fair treatment. So thank you for what you do for my fellow brothers and sisters in blue and just in general out there. We need more people like you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's, as I say, it's always it's a great honor to be entrusted by great people with their life.
Definitely. But before we go,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell my public how to find you and how to maybe reach out to you to use your services. Because, like I said, or maybe just how can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram by my name. You can find me. I'm old, but I'm trying to use TikTok. Still don't totally get it, but I have a TikTok. I have a website. So my website is www.castronovo. So all O's, Castro, like Fidel, Novo, law.com. And Google search will give you our Google review business page, and people can reach out. My phone number is on there, the office phone number, 805-915-2202. People can send me a message to the website, call. I like people to call, preferably, and let's connect. And, while I may not be the attorney for every, issue in life, even if someone calls me and they don't have a case that I'm going to handle or I'm equipped to handle, I'm always happy to refer, people to people I believe to be good, that I know are good people that know what they're doing, that are competent, and, I don't ever mind being a resource for things like that.
Thank you. And I'll share all that information. And I like your motto, by the way. Remember I said yesterday?
Yeah.
So,
My model?
your motto.
Oh, my motto, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
like
rhymes
that.
with my podcast name because you use the word purpose.
Purpose, right? Purpose is everything.
Yeah, you gotta have purpose. Yeah. Yours is justice with purpose. Or
It's justice with purpose,
yeah,
advocacy with soul.
there you go.
I put the word soul in there too.
Yeah, good, good. And I'll share all the information below. And there you go, guys. I mean, if you haven't gotten anything out of this episode, watch it again. But I'm sure you did. And this is what we do this for. We do this to serve people. And we had the privilege and honor today to have Nicole Castronovo with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again. And if you guys like this episode, especially you cops and first responders, please take notes. Reach out to my friend here and share this with other cops out there, because I know for a fact all the knowledge that she dropped on us today is not given in the academy or in the departments. So spread this episode, share this knowledge with as many of officers as out there as you possibly can. So Nicole, thank you for being here again, and it was an honor.
Spasiba.
Пожалуйста.